Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. And sorry, I'm on the avatar tonight. I've had this, today's just been one of those days. Do you know when sometimes you have days and you just can't wait to go to bed so you can wake up and it'll be another day? Because it's just been a really strange day today. At the end of the day, there's people out there who've had a lot worse days than I have, I'm sure, but that's just how I feel. I'm tired. I know, so I'm not fit to be viewed on video because I haven't done my hair, I haven't done anything. But so, as you know, the reason why it was a bit of a dodgy day, if you watched my live earlier, it started off with taking the dogs to the campo, tripping up over a cable. So my knees hurt and my arm hurts and everything hurts. And then I had the drama with the little birdie, and the little birdie didn't make it. The little birdie died, so that was really sad and traumatic. And it's just then hearing about Ziello being found, which is good news, really, because, well, obviously it's not good news, that he's dead, but we knew that he was, really. But it's good news that his body has been found rather than him being just left out there, forever, and his parents never getting it, his family never getting a chance to bring him home, give him a burial. Bless his little cotton socks, but just looking at his little face and that. So yeah, it's been a funny old day. It's been a funny old day. One of those days. I hope you've all had a better day than I have. But even it's not that bad, the day I've had. It just seems to have been strange, one strange thing after another. And I think that normally happens, doesn't it? One thing goes wrong and normally everything goes wrong. So tomorrow is another day, as Scarlett O'Hara said. So you just think, of course, it could always be worse tomorrow. You don't know. Okay, so, right, we're really here to talk about Mica Miller tonight, or Mica Francis. I want to look at a couple of interviews that her dad has done on News Nation. And then there was a press conference from the family. They've come to some sort of arrangement with JP Pastor, or Giant Prick, as I call him. I'm so disrespectful, but you know what? I'm only disrespectful to people who deserve disrespect. You know, we know that he is really, you know, it actually makes my blood run cold when I think of him being with Mica after she was gone, you know, because he was the husband. He was given her possessions and allowed to go and see her. And it just makes my blood run cold, honestly. He's a very creepy guy, that JP Miller, you know, very, very creepy guy. Anyway, we're going to look at a couple of interviews that a family have done, and we're going to look at the press conference where they talk about this. You know, they have made some agreement with him, and they're hoping to get this Mica's law into existence. You know, that will hopefully help with people that are suffering domestic violence or whatever. I mean, I think really where the family will be with this is they'll be feeling that this could have been prevented if Mica, you know, would have had more help, if the police would have taken her more seriously. You'll see that they end up sort of saying, you know, it's almost as if he was so powerful in that community that the police didn't take enough notice, you know. So it's, you know, hopefully this is the only thing you can hope for in cases like this. You know, you can't bring Mike back, but if something positive comes out of it, I think the families cling to that a bit, don't they? It's like Joe Petito and the Gabby Petito Foundation. You know, they sort of cling to the fact that something good has come out of their loved one's death, one way or another. That's all you can cling on to, isn't it? Okay, so let's have a look at a couple of videos that are from a couple of interviews that a dad made. Let's see. I just got to find it. Yeah, so this first interview that we're going to look at, Mica Francis, who, you know, he has commented on my videos before, so he may well be watching. He was interviewed on News Nation, and this is something that he told Banfield, that John Paul viewed that getting a prostitute as no big deal. I mean, it does seem that there was some really sort of icky things going on with John Paul. Really very creepy guy. And the thing is, someone like Mica, who just seems that, you know, she would be easily manipulated by him because from the age of 14, you know, he was manipulating her. So she would have been fair game to him, unfortunately. So let's see what Michael's got to say.
Thank you to both of you. Michael, I'd like to just start with you if I can. And the reaction to the claims that are made in Allison Williams' lawsuit, I mean, to me, they were absolutely jaw-dropping. Were these new claims to you about what she alleges happened during her marriage to John Paul?
No, it was not new information to me, just because, well, first it was shared with me, and I knew that Mica was in contact with Allie because I was with Mica during some of those texts. I was with Mica when she said she needed to reach out to Allie for some help. And
now let me just point out who Allie is. Allie is Alison, who was John Paul's first wife. And of course, she suffered abuse from him as well. So apparently when Mica was struggling, you know, with JP, she reached out to his first wife to try and get some help, you know. So
we were aware that he had issues with younger people in the church, and even very, very close to home, we had people that would tell us, you know, that they do not want their kids around him. And this is one of the things that he would do, was oppress younger kids into just staying. I mean, this is what I've been told caused them to just want to be there and yield and end up in a situation that's compromising to their families.
So his ex-wife has said that JP was inappropriate with minor girls. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm not surprised, really. I'm not surprised. He's like Stephen Stearns. He's like a Stephen Stearns on speed, really. I mean, in the position he's in as a pastor in the church, you get opportunity. You know, these people, they look for positions where they're going to get opportunities to be around minors and to have power over them.
He's compromising to their morals. And this is just something that is quite shocking. But at the same time, it is, if you see his messages, if you hear the things he talks about, there's a lot of foreshadowing. There's a lot of demeaning talk towards women. And there is, and it's just laughed off. And it is, it's not a shock. What Allison put out is we.
Yeah, he's right. Because some of the things, you know, some of the things we've listened to him say, and we've only listened to bits of his sermons because I just can't bear to listen to him anyway. But some of the things he says, you know, they're just outrageous, and the congregation just laugh. I mean, sometimes I think it's a bit of a nervous laugh. They're probably thinking, what the hell? But he seems to captivate people. I would only go to see this guy once, and then the one time I'd heard him, it'd be like, oh my God, he's some sort of freak or something, you know? So I just don't know how he's got away with it, but he seems to be able to command people.
We much appreciate it. Couldn't be better timing in a sense of helping people understand the character of this man. And it's very important. The truth is out. Allison is a truthful person, so is Mica. And we need more people that can vouch and show. I mean, they've been answered in.
Well, yeah, if you had to choose who to believe, that's a hard one, isn't it? Who do I believe? Do I believe what Mica says? Or do I believe, or what Alison says? Or do I believe what Giant Prick Pastor says? Oh, I wonder.
In court as being truthful people. So we need to listen to them.
Regina, as an attorney, I'd like you to weigh in on the allegations that Allison makes. I mean, these are big. Repeatedly unfaithful. Okay, I have heard that before, but regularly hiring prostitutes. And then this bombshell, quote, sexually inappropriate with several underage female members, end quote, of Solid Rock Church. She says that these.
Oh, he's the stuff that dreams are made of, isn't he? He's the stuff that dreams are made of. You know, regularly hiring prostitutes, inappropriate with young girls, and many affairs. My God, you've won the lottery if you get to marry this guy, haven't you? It's like winning the lottery. Absolutely like winning the lottery. Is this his ex-wife? I mean, she's the spit of Mica. They're like, they're so alike, aren't they? He certainly has a type. This John Paul Pastor, he certainly does. God, he's so weird. It's like he's actually creepy. That if I heard that he was a serial killer or something, I would not be surprised.
Female members spoke to her and tried to get justice, but were told by police, he's a pastor, it's not going to happen. And the fact that Allison tried to speak to the police, she says the police just said, you look like a disgruntled party to a divorce. As an attorney, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I've actually read those pleadings that were filed, and
well, Mica's like a twin, isn't she? You know, they're so alike, those two women.
Allison had mentioned that when she went to tell the police about what these young women or young ladies had told her about, that there was a concern that with all the circumstances surrounding it, that it may not, take it seriously. That's really disconcerting. They should have gone and investigated further, in my opinion, and looked a little further into that. Unfortunately, whenever divorce pleadings are filed, about every action that you take, people are, or I shouldn't say people, but the judges or the opposing counsel are suspicious that whatever you're doing may be something to, get yourself ahead in your own
discredit
divorce.
the other party, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I mean, that's why, I mean, listen, matrimonial law is some of the most difficult, some of the most egregious and acrimonious courtrooms in the country, our family court.
It is.
And I just want to reiterate that, again, John Paul has not been charged with anything. And so these are allegations made in court filings. But Michael, I've got to ask you, did Mica ever let on that any of these same behaviors that Allie is alleging happened during her marriage to JP?
Yes, bingo. That's the thing I'm talking about. As far as she's truthful, Mike's truthful. The court's already shown that they are truthful people, so we need to listen to them. Same things occurred during Allie's marriage that occurred during Micah's marriage to this man. And like I said, I was there for some of the texts. I was there for some of it. And that's one reason why I brought up the prostitution portion for Mica herself, because people were, he was trying to convince people that she's crazy. She's just, just coming up with stuff off of her head. No, Allison experienced the same things.
Yeah, because of course JP's argument, if you like, that Mica was crazy. But of course, what Michael's saying is, it's not Mica who's crazy, because his first wife Alison was saying the same thing. So this is repeated actions that he's doing. I really feel for Michael and all the family, because how helpless you must feel, against what's being said, because now, of course, Mica hasn't got a voice at all now. And, bearing in mind what she supposedly, allegedly did to herself, he'll be saying, oh, that just proves what I was saying, that she had mental illness. But she was, what I think, whatever it turns out, whether it was him who did it or whether it was him who made her do it just by chipping away at her for so long, it's still murder as far as I'm concerned, or manslaughter. And so, yeah, I really feel for Michael. It must be awful to just watch, watch him accusing Mica of being mentally unstable. And we saw him have a total meltdown, didn't we, in the video that we watched of him having a meltdown on the grass, and he's saying that it's Mica that's mentally ill. That's what they do, these people. This is what they do. So poor Michael having to watch that or listen to that, and at least Michael's getting a voice on like programs like this. He's Mica's voice, and Mica's family are a voice now.
So yes, very
Can
important.
you be specific at all, Michael, about what incidents Mica had told you, the family members, that she dealt with during her marriage to JP that mirrored what Allie's saying?
Well, let's see. Well, just the fact that it just seemed to be like no big deal for John Paul to suddenly just say, let's go grab a prostitute after dinner or whatever, just nonchalant, and then basically just force Allison or Mica to be, in at least the view of this, and at least the exposure to it. Even just the process of looking for somebody to do that is just so baffling to me.
So just after dinner, let's go and get a prostitute. It's like, let's go and get a McFlurry or something from McDonald's. Let's just go and just awful.
That he just does this, and it'd be great if some more people came forward about this. That would that have more details, because I don't have details. I just know that it occurred.
I mean, that's just awful. Just those thoughts. The allegations are awful on their own as well. And to hear that it's possible that it may have happened with Mica as well. Again, I have to reiterate, John Paul has not been charged at this point, but I believe that there is still a heavy investigation that is taking place. I'm very thankful to both of you for taking time, especially on this very busy day. And we'll check in with you again, because the process is ongoing tomorrow and after that as well. So Michael Francis and Regina Ward, thank you both. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find news.
So we're going to watch another interview now with Mica's dad. Somewhere. I want to just put a few windows down. Yeah, so in this interview, he says that John Paul Miller felt like he owned Mica. That's it. Mica was like his possession. She still is in a way. You know, he's still acting as if Mica belonged to him, you know, turning up there, taking her possessions. And I agree, David, I won't be surprised if he took that necklace off her neck. And, you know, he's still got an ownership over her in his eyes. So anyway, let's hear what Michael says here.
They just wrote her off, and the same way they wrote Allison off.
Do you think there should be more of an investigation here?
Absolutely. I think that Mica was let down from the system from day one. They just wrote her off, and the same way they wrote Allison off. And I couldn't be more thankful for Allison stepping forward with the things that she's put out, and it corroborates Mica. They're both truthful people, and we expect to see further action taken. The evidence still shows that it was at minimum an unattended death. But how could she be moved so far from the shell casings right after the incident occurred, according to the timeline of the witnesses on the spot?
All right, let's fill our audience in. Allison is John Paul's first wife, and that's Allison correct. Was a supporter of Mica. The two of them actually bonded because Mica reached out to Allison for help when she felt she was being abused by John Paul.
Yes, Allison told her to get out. He won't stop. Get out, go away. He will not stop. And here we are. It's just terrible. And I think all the evidence and the outcry from the public is plenty to continue to dig into this investigation. It could be reopened. It can be unknown. The determination needs to be changed.
Allison says that when she went to police to
Right, sorry, I just want to have a look at this. So we watched, didn't we, all the CCTV of Mica's last day. That's still available to watch. If you missed that video, we watched the whole process from when she leaves home at 11:38 in the morning, dressed as if she's going to work, didn't she? But instead of going to work, she went to the pawn shop and bought the gun and ammunition. She walked into the shop at 12:13. She buys the gun and ammunition. It took about 20-30 minutes to buy the gun and ammunition. She then went to she went to a petrol station here, filled up petrol and gas. Petrol, and bought a bottle of a drink, etc. And then went all the way up here to Lumber River State Park. You know, it's quite you know, it's not just round the corner. You know, she went quite a long way to this state park. And this is another mystery, isn't it, that people don't understand. Why did she go there, all the way up there? And then she made the 911 call, supposedly, to say she was going to kill herself because she wanted her family to know where she would be. Oh dear, you know, it's so in between 11:38 in the morning leaving home and then 2:54 p.m., which is when she phoned 911, and then shortly afterwards she allegedly shot herself. And in between, she went and bought the gun, went to the gas station. But of course, we don't know yet what messages she received. You know, was he messaging her? You know, what was going on? We don't know all the details of what was going on, do we?
Alleged that John Paul was abusing women, that she was told by the police, nobody will believe you. John Paul is a prominent pastor in town. Nobody will believe you.
That's correct. She was trying to help out other victims who wanted to remain anonymous, and she went and was going to tell their story, and the officer told her, "No one's going to believe you. You might as well not do it." I don't get it. I just don't get it. People are hurting, and the cops are doing nothing.
Mica also went to police with a complaint shortly before her death, saying that he was harassing her, that he was taking things from her, that he hospitalized her against her will.
Right.
She also said in this complaint that John Paul had groomed her when she was still a child.
Okay, 14, not 10, but 14.
What happened?
Please. Yeah, they arrived. Mica and her stepfather and mother and the rest of the siblings were in Myrtle Beach at the time when she was between 14 and 15. That's when they started going to the church. And that's when everything started getting the separation of the family. Let me help you get away and such like that. So I kind of don't want to go down that path at the moment. But yes, it was terrible. There was Mica, talked many times of being very confused. Who do I stay with? Dad, help me out here. And she came and stayed with me some in Virginia. And then it just went downhill once they got married.
I got to ask you, you're a father. Dads have gut feelings, have instincts. They're protective of their daughters. What did you think of John Paul when you met him?
I didn't want her to marry him, but they had already done a secret wedding in the first place. And the one that we did all in public was just for show. And I totally opposed it. There was things that were going on that were just baffling me. Him having matching tattoos to her. And then he even had her, he had a tattoo put on her of his signature. He owned her. That's what he felt like.
He had his.
So he had his signature tattooed on her. Yeah. Gosh, just looking at his face. Well, every time I look at him, I think he looks like the devil. So his ears and that face, he literally looks like some demon. And it's so frustrating for a father or a mother or anyone, a sister or a brother. When you see your loved one with somebody who you think is inappropriate, and you have to keep your mouth shut because, at the end of the day, they're grown-ups and they've chosen that person, and you have to pretend to be nice to them and polite to them when really you can't stand them and you know that they're going to do your loved one damage. It's very difficult, and it must be especially difficult for a father, or a mother. I mean, I've not experienced that as a parent, but I've experienced it like with my siblings, like their partners, where you've got to be nice to them because at the end of the day, that's their choice. But I expect for a father that was very difficult for Michael.
Own signature tattooed on her.
Yeah, and once we had her out for a while and she was staying with me, she got a tattoo to cover it, and then she went back, and guess what? After a couple of years, back on.
Oh my God!
I know that this.
So she left him for a while, went to live with her dad, and she had that tattoo covered over. But then she went back to him, and then the next minute it was back on. My God. This guy, he's good. I'm talking about John Paul. He's a good manipulator. I mean, he's good at what he does. Yeah, he is. Picks his women carefully and who can get away with it. And Mica, she was vulnerable, wasn't she? And, she just seems like so sweet. How could she not see it? You think, why did she not see it in him? She's too good, really. She's too good, and she wants to please him. That's, and part of her faith as well, isn't it? To stay married. Oh God, he'll have messed with her head so much that in the end she wouldn't have known if she was coming or going.
has been ruled a death by suicide. You are advocating for the investigation to be reopened. Is that because you believe John Paul had something to do with her death?
Well, I'm not going to speak to that directly. I don't have evidence myself or something, and I'm trusting that the authorities involved now are pressing to get all of information and to get any kind of loose ends that can be tied up and get some connection going. There's definitely plenty of evidence that shows that it was not an unintended death.
Are you surprised by all the public support you're getting?
I'm actually not surprised. First off, because Mica is such a wonderful person, and because you can see in her videos and everything, even when she's singing words that hurt her, that he wrote in parodies, and it just seemed like she was singing about the problems that they were going through, just like he was preaching about the problems they were going through. And he just, she's just so amazing. And the public, we appreciate you guys so much. Everybody that's helping out, everybody that's supporting. #Justice for Mica. Just do a search and you'll find a lot of stuff. You can go to justiceformica.com, and there's a lot of links on there.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find.
Oh. Yeah. So he's an absolute. We knew he was a twonk, but everything we hear about him is even more of a twonk. Night, Rachel, or bye. See you tomorrow maybe, or see you next time. So yeah, so that's 2 interviews I wanted to show you that a dad made. Poor dad. God, just don't him. He must want to kill that guy. I mean, literally kill him. But he'd got into trouble, wouldn't he? Anyway. So now we're going to have a look at the press conference that the family did. So there was a big court thing, the family and John Paul, they sort of were supposed to be going to court, to talk about the estate, Mica's estate, etc. Anyway, they did a press conference afterwards. And that's what we're going to look at now and see what they had to say. Again, let me just find it.
We can't undo those things that happened allegedly.
Let me go back to the beginning.
Order. I just had it delivered to Judge Brahma Holmes, who is the judge that is assigned to this case. She has.
Sorry, let me just go right back to the beginning. So,
hello, everyone.
I believe these 2 ladies are 2 of Mica's sisters. I'm sure she's got 3 sisters. I'm not sure if the other one's there. I think this is Mica's stepfather. So that's who's here behind, and this is the lawyer for the family talking, Regina Ward.
Thank you so much for being here today. We know that you were coming today to go or attend the temporary hearing that was scheduled in family court today at 2:30. What has happened at this point is that the parties have reached a temporary agreement that was reduced to writing. It was put in the format of a court order. I just had it delivered to Judge Brahma Holmes, who is the judge that is assigned to this case. She has reviewed it. She found it to be appropriate, and she has signed it. So we went and have clocked and filed it with the court. It's not going to be available probably immediately because I literally just clocked and filed it. I'm sure that you're interested in knowing some of what it is about. First of all, I just want to tell you that in terms of a temporary hearing in family court, it is exactly what it says. It is an order that's issued by the judge on a temporary basis. And usually those are issued because there's an immediate need for some sort of relief, whether that be in other cases like temporary custody of children, making sure things are being paid and people are being supported and children being supported. In this case, obviously, there's not any children involved. but we still needed some temporary relief from the court. Whenever those hearings are held, there is no live testimony. There is only, it's a paper-driven hearing. In other words, the only thing that is presented is actual affidavits from the parties and then any supporting affidavits that would corroborate their story. We were prepared today to bring forward our client's affidavit.
Sorry, there's Mica's other sister. Not sure who these two people are, whether that's this lady's husband, and I'm not sure who this lady is, but these are the three sisters and the stepfather.
As well as other supporting affidavits, as well as I'm sure that Mr. Miller and his attorney were too. However, under the circumstances, we've decided to enter into this agreement. One of the primary issues that we were seeking a court order from the judge is possession of Mica's personal property that's being held in the possession of Robeson County Sheriff's Department. As you've probably seen, the property that's with them is her personal cell phone, her purse, whatever's inside her purse, her vehicle, and whatever's in her vehicle. As far as anything beyond that, we're not sure what all is available there, but that was something that we wanted to make sure that we got in our custody.
So they've come to some agreement with him, haven't they? So they're the items that she was saying that now the family have at their disposal. So it'd be interesting to see what's on the phone, won't it? So they've made, they were going to, you know, they were taking him to court, but it's obviously better if some sort of agreement can be made, and it seems like some sort of agreement has been made.
As part of the consent order, the parties have agreed that would be Sierra Francis on behalf of her sister Mica. She stands in as the plaintiff for Mica at this point, and Mr. Miller have agreed that that property will be released from the Robeson County Sheriff's Department, or if they've put that property with somebody else, another investigative authority. When all authorities are finished with that property and have no use, no longer any use for it, in other words, they've finished up whatever investigations or whatever they need that property for, then that property is going to be turned over to my office. It will not be released to Mr. Miller. And that does not mean that he doesn't have the right to see what's on a cell phone, which we're all interested in looking at. We also don't know what else may have been in the purse or the wallet or anything like that. His lawyer would be able to ask us about having access to it too. But right now, we are very satisfied and happy that he has been advised by his attorney to allow us to get that property in our possession.
Oh, there you go. So that's good. So they've got to get that property in their possession. I presume it's in his possession at the moment then, is it?
Other terms that were part of the agreement had to do with the vehicle that Mica was driving in North Carolina. That vehicle was actually also titled in another lady's name, Ms. Neosi, who is her godmother. So the parties have agreed that that vehicle will be released back to Miss Diana. It is her vehicle, and that's who should get it. We also agreed to respective restraining orders. These are family court restraining orders. They're pretty standard in most family court cases. For instance, in this particular case, there will be a mutual restraint that no party will dispose of any marital asset or do anything to devalue the asset. That is because what is part of the question here is what part of the marital estate belongs to Mica. And that's what we've got to get to next. So there's a restraining order that nobody can dissipate, sell, transfer any property that may be considered marital. In addition to that, there's also a similar restraining order that goes to the opposite in terms of debts and things like that. Whenever.
So that's good. So he can't sell anything Nobody can sell anything, dispose of anything until it's all sorted. Anything that could be considered marital property.
You're in a marriage, you may have the capability of having your spouse be a part of some debt. So there's a restraint on not incurring any further marital debt. And then, of course, there is a restraining order with regard to the protection of people. And that protection of people in this place goes both ways. It is a mutual restraining order. It is not a restraining order in the matter that a lot of people think of as in a criminal case. In a criminal case, whenever a restraining order is issued or a no contact order is issued on behalf of a victim, that means that the person that that's being held against has no authority, cannot go around that person at all. Period. And they can get locked up on site for violating a conditions of a bond or a no contact order. And this particular situation, because we are in family court, it's a little different. If someone violates a restraining order in family court, you have to put together your evidence and you have to file a petition called a rule to show cause. You have to request the hearing. You also have to serve that person notice that you're making an allegation that they have violated a court order. And then you have your day in court, just like any other trial setting, where you get to present evidence and witnesses, and then you prove or you defend against whether you've violated a family court restraining order. So there's a lot more hoops to it. In this particular case, the restraining order basically is saying that the parties are mutually restrained from contacting the other, that all communications will be handled through the attorney's offices. So there's no need for any direct communication. We're also under a mutual restraint to not go into the area of a person's residence or where they work. And if they do, they are to return and leave if the other person is there. So whoever is there first gets to stay and the other one needs to return, turn around and leave. Well, everyone is also restrained from making any, threatening, any physical harm or anything like that. By us entering into these restraining orders, please do not misconstrue. That does not mean specifically that someone has already done these types of behaviors. These are formalities that are put into place to protect all parties prior to anything like that happen. So we have not, let me make it clear, not had any problems with Mr. Miller trying to contact anybody or anybody trying to violate any of these terms. These are put into place as a formality on the front end for the protection of all parties involved. It also makes clear what the boundaries are. And then if anyone violates what's written in this court order, they'll have an opportunity to file a contempt action or a rule to show cause. No one goes to jail on site for violating this particular type of restraining order. There were other issues that were asked for or relief that was asked for in our motion. We've decided to put those, what we call hold them in abeyance. In other words, we've not given up the right to pursue whatever relief we were asking for, but we've all agreed that we will set that to the side for the moment and that we will come back to it at a later time. There's various reasons for doing that. One thing is to quickly, what we wanted to get was this order that we would have possession of Mica's personal property that's in the currently in the possession of Robeson County Sheriff's Department.
Oh, so the police has got a property at the moment. So that's good. At least he hasn't got it.
So at this time, one of the things that's very important for the family, and after this, we would like to refrain from answering any questions. I want you to refrain from asking any questions from the family members. Any questions that you'll have to ask, please direct them to me and I will answer them for you. I'm going to let you know right now what we're going to talk about next is actually something that was brought to our attention. We have been so impressed and just so happy with people who have taken interest in this case for good causes, for people who have given us tips, who have sent us information and guided us through various avenues where we were looking for answers for certain things. And the family is very grateful for that. There is still a lot to be done here. there is something that's very important to this family today and is also important to this community, we have learned. And that is there is a petition going around for what everyone's referring to as Mica's Law. And we want Mica's Law. This is a book that I put together with some information, some research, and things that I've done about Mica's Law. Would you be shocked to know that that very law has already been drafted and has been sitting in the General Assembly and the Judiciary Committee, both in the House of Representatives and the Senate? Don't get too happy. It's been sitting there since February the 2nd of 2020. Now I'm mad. Are you mad? I'm mad.
She looks mad as well. She looks angry. And Mica's sister looks upset. That is really, you know, there's a law there that could have helped Mica that's been sitting there for months.
So let me tell you the history. On February the 20th of 2020, what is referred to as the Coercive Control Bill was introduced to the House of Representatives. And we'll make sure I get the name right. I believe it was a former representative, McLean Toole, Toole. He presented that bill read it into the House of Representatives. And what happens after that is it's referred to what's called a Judiciary Committee. Now, the Judiciary Committee is tasked with looking at the bill, seeing what needs to be improved, what needs to be deleted. In other words, going through the process to make sure that it is properly codified and put in, and that it's ready for law. So the Coercive Control Bill, when it was introduced as House Bill number 5271. You can get online and track it. It goes nowhere. It goes to the Judiciary Committee, and it goes no further. Folks, that was 4 years ago. Then again, I said, on January the 12th of 2021, House Representative Robert J., also referred to as RJ, May, M-A-Y, the third, he introduced the same bill, Coercive Control Bill. It was known as House Bill 3621. That was 3 years ago. You do the research on the bill, guess what? It got referred to the Judiciary Committee. Now, normally when it gets there, there should be a subcommittee that is assigned to take that particular bill, to study it, to review it, to bring in whatever advisors or other professionals to help craft that bill and put it into hopefully its perfect form. It went to the Judiciary Committee in the House and never went any further.
Yeah, so this Coercive Control Bill, you can say it's just been left to languish, hasn't it? Nothing's been, it's not been considered important enough, I suppose. Now, I don't know if you know, but if you're in the UK, I don't know what the rules are in Australia, but probably, you know, the spate of women being murdered in Australia this year may change it in Australia. But in the UK, we've recently had a new law brought in, you know, so people can be charged with manslaughter, or might not be called manslaughter. But there's a new charge in the UK that if somebody has sort of driven someone to, you know, like in Mica's case might have happened, been sort of driven to taking her own life. And there's been a couple of landmark cases in the UK, hasn't there? Kiera Dawes just recently, and then there was another girl last year where their partners, because the first girl, she killed herself. The police had gone round there, you know, but she was terrified of her boyfriend. You could see it as clear as anything. Anyway, she ended up taking her own life. And then Kiera Dawes, she did the same thing. She tried to get help from the police, got absolutely nowhere, and in the end, she threw herself in front of a train. You know, so these are cases that are so sad, but they do, if they lead to a change, at least that's something. So, but what's sad here is it sounds like there was a change, but it just started languishing in the Senate and in the House of, you know, the House of Representatives. It's quite a slow process, I would imagine, because you have it in America, it has to go through the two houses, doesn't it? But this sounds like this has just been left to languish and not acted upon. And it might have helped Mica.
Find where it was assigned to anyone or anything. Now let's go back 2.5 years ago. December the 7th, 2021. Senator Katrina Fry Shelley. She introduced into the Senate the coercive control bill. What do you think happened to it? Got referred to the Judiciary Committee. I need to tell you more about that particularly. And before I do so, let's make sure everyone understands what is the coercive control bill. Coercive control refers to a pattern of behavior used by one person to dominate, manipulate, and intimidate another within an intimate or familial relationship. It encompasses acts such as assault, threats, humiliation, emotional abuse, and isolation. The goal is to harm, punish, and frighten your victim through fraudulent representations. It often refers to specific types of behavior. The Coercive Control Bill, Senate Bill 927, sitting in the Senate right now, offers a definition for coercive.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward it a bit because she's talking about the bill and all that, and I think we get the picture of what the bill, Mica's law that the family are trying to bring in is coercive control law, and they're trying to bring this in, but it is in the process already. I suppose what they're trying to do is bring it forward. So they've come to an agreement basically with John Paul, a court agreement, though, you know, not just an agreement, them all sitting down and making an arrangement. They've made a proper agreement through the court, so he can't renege on it. They can't renege on it. They're happy with it, and we'll see where it goes from there. Now, they did do an interview then with JLR, and I have contacted JLR to ask him if I could play that video. He hasn't replied, so I'm going to take that as a no, because if he doesn't give me the permission to play the whole video, it's all right. It's one thing playing a little bit of a video, but to actually watch the interview with Mica's family, if he doesn't give me permission, I'd rather not do it. But so what we're going to look at now instead, we're going to look at this other pastor. So Pastor Charles Randall. Now, he's the other pastor at the Solid Rock Church. And actually, before we look at that, I want to look at what the church is, you know, what the religious community is saying about this whole situation, because you imagine, you know, the way this is now making pastors, you know, there's loads of pastors in the in America, and I'm sure a lot of them are really good people, you know, with genuine calling and genuinely trying to help their flock, you know, and whatever. And they must be quite concerned about this, because, you know, at the end of the day, it looks bad on the church. Looks bad on pastors, just on the church in general. So that's what we're going to look at now. I found an article from a church magazine, which I've got to try and find now. There it is. So this is an article from the Baptist News Global. The story of Solid Rock Church increasingly appears to be built on sinking sand. So these are the protests outside the church. Break the silence, end domestic violence. I mean, it was on May the 14th, so it's 2 weeks ago. But the story of the South Carolina pastor accused of grooming and abusing his wife before she allegedly took her own life keeps changing every day. Mica Miller's plight has drawn international headlines since she was found in another state, dead from a gunshot wound on April the 27th. Her husband, John Paul Miller, has been accused of physically and sexually abusing her, of having an addiction to prostitutes, of having extramarital affairs, and now he's been accused of mishandling church funds. The Myrtle Beach News reported May the 13th that Miller and Tom Winslow of the Winslow law firm are persons of interest by the FBI. The FBI is definitely going to get involved looking into this guy. He's got a lot of secrets. He's got, you know, there's a lot of things hidden with John Paul. So, you know, he's going to get some comeuppance somewhere along the line, unless, you know, he manages to sort of inveigle his way out of it. But anyway, there are persons of interest by the FBI over issues surrounding monies collected for Miller's African mission, Dare to Care. The local newspaper says it has documentation showing that Mica Miller knew about the FBI investigation before her death, and that after her death, her bank account was credited with $1,199, believed to have been intended for Dare to Care, a mission in Africa. Apparently, additional funds are missing from that same mission, the news outlet reported. Despite all the accusations of prostitutes and womanizing and abuse in extramarital affairs, J.P. Miller has not been fired by his non-denominational church. Earlier reports indicated he had been fired, but he hasn't. He's still doing his sermons. During a sermon on May the 12th at Solid Rock Church, Charles Randall, so this is the other pastor, he's another one. He's not, in my eyes, we're going to watch him talking a little bit. We watched him talking before at Mica's memorial service, and it was odd as he, you know, he refers to her as like my little girl. It's creepy, just creepy. He's creepy too, and he seemed to be oblivious, you know, to all this that was going on. So during the sermon last Sunday, May the 12th at Solid Rock Church, Charles Randall disputed reports that he had fired Miller. He is described as someone who helped Miller set up his church and as a spiritual advisor and mentor. He has not been fired, Randall said in the Sunday sermon. I have released him from ministerial functions for a minute to get some healing and some counseling and some guidance. You can't go through these things like this and just step right back into the same day. So Mr. Randall, 72, told London's Daily Mail that misinformation and lies are being spread about the church and Miller. However, on social media and in other news outlets, scandalous photos and reports keep piling up. And some of those allegations, including sexual encounters with minors, were made in divorce papers filed against Miller by his first wife in 2015. You know, the thing is that whatever was filed by his first wife seems to have been repeated. You know, we heard earlier, is repeated, you know, with Mica. So he's got form, this guy. It's not the first time he's done all this. And the failure of church leaders to address these accusations 9 years ago reportedly led to a mass exodus of church members. According to the Daily Mail, Randall delivered a rousing Sunday sermon intended to rally support behind the accused pastor. Well, I think this guy will be right behind JP Miller because his reputation depends on it as well. He's involved in this, isn't he? So he said, we need to be stable, steadfast, unmovable while we go through this storm. Too many folks are being moved by lies and innuendos. This building should be full right now. If you're going through a storm, you have to be steadfast. I'm here for the duration. I'm not going to be here forever. I want you to know I'm here because there's a Christian brother that needs help. He needs help. I refuse to let this ministry die because I believe in it. Well, he didn't help Mica at all, did he? He let Mica die. Honestly, it's making me so angry, this. He's helping John Paul Miller, a complete tosspot, but he didn't help Mica at all. He just let her die because he is involved somehow with John Paul. So he ran for a seat in the South Carolina House in 2012 as a conservative Democrat and lost. The church's website's been suspended and is no longer visible, blah, blah, blah. So the thing is, what I'm saying is, you know, the church in general will be angry about this because it casts a dim light on the church in general, any church. You know, these kind of scandals, they're not good, are they, for the church? Okay, now we're going to look at Mr. Randall and what he had to say at Mica's what he had to say. Shh. I can't. Shh. Stop. I'm not in the mood tonight. I can't think straight when she's back. Okay. So we're going to have a look at what he had to say at her memorial service.
My little girl, I call her Sister Miller, on today, and we came to celebrate. I know it's a time of sadness and we are missing someone very special, but we want to celebrate the life that she lived, okay? And I was close to that for a short period of time. And so we want to celebrate today. So I just talk very briefly on behalf of I call her my little girl. Amen. Amen.
My little girl. Amen. Amen. You know, my little girl, how patronizing. And I'm not being funny, but he doesn't look that upset. This was the Sunday after. This was literally, you know, just a few days later. How upset does he look? He's reading off the thing. He can't even say it spontaneously. Sorry, he's another one. He's false as well. False as anything.
And over in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6, I have planted, Apollo watered, but God giveth the increase. And that's my little girl today. I had an opportunity in October She traveled with me to Africa. And while there, she planted a seed. She planted a seed in that ministry in Africa. And she was so excited about that seed that she planted. When she came back to America, what it would usually take people many months to do to put together, she put it together in the matter of weeks, establishing a ministry in Africa, in Kenya, in Africa. And the scripture says, one plant, one water, and God give the increase. And show you the effectiveness of what she planted, what God used her to plant. That seed has already been watered. For last Sunday, there was a team that have already been to Africa from this church to water that seed that she planted. And yes, even...
I mean, seriously, does this seem like somebody who's talking about his little girl who, you know, shot herself at the end of the day, supposedly? She shot herself and taken her own life. And he's like, well, it doesn't seem like he's talking, he's not emotional. He's having to read from notes. He's referring to his little girl. It's giving me the total creeps. He's just as bad as the other one. That's why he's sticking with him. He's sticking with him because there's something, you know, he's either compromised by him, where he's maybe, you know, there's probably things in his past. He's probably exactly the same as him. You know, maybe they've done things together, and maybe JP knows things about him, and he's probably blackmailed him, because you won't put him past that. But it's just so, you know, just feels so wrong, all of it. And they do, you know, they're giving religion a bad name. They're giving other pastors a bad name. They're giving all the, you know, it won't only be their congregation that's gone down, because there will be probably places all over America, if they've heard of this story, that will now be doubting their own churches and things, you know, looking twice at everything. So it's a, you know, it's a horrible case, this, really, because it's, Joe, have you ever known anything like it? I mean, it's technically, not yet anyway, it's not it's not a red rum, is it? It's not a murder. It's a very sad, you know, taking of someone taking their own life. Allegedly, that's all we know so far. But, you know, there's so much more to it that nobody feels. Everybody feels that even if it does come down to the fact that Mica did it to herself, it's almost like she was made to do it or pushed into doing it. And he's another one, this Charles Randall, he's another one that has pushed her to do it, because he did not help her at all. He's talking now about wanting to help this twonk. What did he do to help Mica? What did the church do to help Mica? Nothing, because they were all too worried about John Paul.
While the seed was being watered, God was given to the increase. And that's because of her. That's because of her. That's because of the passion. I wish I could have captured the passion that she had for what she was doing. She would always tell me she was always wanted to know more about the Bible. So she would say things to me. And when she would, I would say, Mica, give me a scripture. And that stuck in her memory bank, I guess. And anytime we talked on the phone after that, she'd say, Reverend Randall, give me scripture. And that's the way she was. But I thank God for allowing me to be a part of her life for the time that I was. And I want you to remember that, because I have a question. That seed that she planted will forever grow. When they watered that seed 2 weeks ago in Africa, we was expecting about 100 children. And it ended up 300 children. And if you...
You know, it's all very well him talking about Africa and this, that, and the other, but he's not talking really about Mica, is he? He's not saying what a tragedy it is that such a beautiful 30-year-old woman has, you know, found it necessary to take her own life. He's not even going down there. That's the elephant in the room. He's not talking about what pushed her into doing it. He's, you know, just going on about this Africa thing. He's not talking about the actual, what has happened to Mica. You know, he's just avoiding it. It's horrible, isn't it? It is. I think it's horrible.
You want to remember her that way. And I'll leave on this note. For her, that was the last part of her legacy. And the question is, what about you? What will your legacy say? She has one. I'm a witness to that she has a legacy that she planted. It has already begun to be watered, and God has already begun to give the increase. Because of her planting that seed.
So he's building up to asking them to donate here, it sounds like to me. Like, what, you know, what have you done? What have you done? Well, you know, donate to the church.
This church has a team that will be going back to Africa in September to actually establish a school because of the seed that was planted. So even though I know our hearts are heavy and we are sorry, may you find comfort. Maybe you find comfort in the fact that you knowing she has planted, and what she has planted will forever live.
Maybe, yeah, but to me, it's just like, so next thing you know, they'll be asking for donations to go back and, you know, for that seed that's been planted, he'll be asking for donations. Okay. So that's what I think anyway. But what do you think? It's all about money. I know, yeah. They're just, yeah, there'll be things are going to come out. I mean, it'll take a long time, but I do think, you know, John Paul is going to is investigated by the FBI. Ow, just, oh gosh, my hands hurt. My hands hurt where I put my hands out where I fell. I'm feeling really sorry for myself tonight. It's not like me, I'll be fine tomorrow. Ow, that hurt. Anyway, so that's it. So that's what I wanted to show you. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be feeling better tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow won't be such a dramatic day as it feels like today's been. Yeah, my hand hurts. I'm gonna put some. I'm feeling so sorry for myself. That literally is not like me. So I'm gonna go before I start wallowing in my self-pity. So thank you for being here with me. I'm going to release this video public after, you know, because people are interested in the Mica Miller case. But thank you all for being members, especially. Thank you so much. And I will see you, as always, really soon in the next video. And yeah, prayers for Mica's family and for Mica, of course. See you tomorrow. And until then, may your God go with you. Night.